that underperformance and that complaining, that like those excuses just bled into everybody else.
Welcome to the Painting Business Pro Show. Today I've got Bruce Burns joining me. He's a new father, and he started his business in 2018 when him and his brother started the business. He runs it by himself now. He does over $2 million a year, makes healthy profit margins. He's building the business the right way and setting himself up for some really good, healthy growth. In this episode, we're going to talk about how he ended a partnership and why. We're going to talk about all the things he does to market his business to do over 2.3 million and what his plans are to do next. And we dive into a lot of the painful lessons that he has learned over the years, particularly with building teams, recruiting, training people, and firing. There's some amazing lessons in here. This episode's chock full of value. I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. All right, what's up, Bruce? Thanks for being here, my man.
Yeah, happy to be here. Love the show, man.
It's good, dude. We have one of these episodes from, I think, your second. I mean, it wasn't an episode then, but your second year in business, I think, after you guys had just done $1 million in your second year.
Yeah. Things have changed.
Yeah, things have changed, man. It's been a wild ride. Well, excited to dive into this. So let's start off right off the top with tell us what the business looks like today, and then we'll go back in time a little bit.
Yeah, man. So 2024, we're on track to do 2.3 million right now. My wife and I run it together, and we'll probably hit 16% net. But if you include my wife's salary, because she is, one of the leaders here, it's more like 19. Yeah, and so, you caught me at a kind of a funny time because I just let go of a salesperson. But throughout this year, I had 2 salespeople, 2 project managers, and then my wife is the office manager.
2 PMs, got it. How come you let go of the sales rep?
Yeah, it's the classic not being coachable issue. So worked with him for a little while and just, couldn't get through to him. So it's not like his results were horrible, but, just a lot of complaining and blaming the world kind of thing. So
yeah,
that doesn't work.
How long has your wife been your office manager for?
Oh yeah, 2 years now.
Okay, nice. How's that been going?
It's awesome, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case for everyone,
Yeah.
But we get along really well, We don't have, we fight like every other couple in the world, but then you just realize it's not me versus you, it's us versus the problem, and
yeah,
it solves itself pretty quickly.
Nice, man. All right, so she's been doing it 2 years. So you're doing 2.3 million. Margins are pretty good. Like, how do you assess the margins of the business? And 16%, 2.3. Do you feel good about that? Where do you see room to improve it? What are your thoughts?
I'm aiming for higher.
Yeah.
So there's been there are a couple of new employees, misestimating and project issues. Some unnecessary overhead stuff like that. So I'd like them to be higher, but I feel good about it. I know what's possible, and I know that I'm building a team that can get us there. So
what are you guys thinking? Well, obviously you just fired a sales rep, so you'll probably be rehiring that one pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure. I'm doing it right now in the interim, but I'm thinking Jan 1 I'll start the hiring process again and get back to full strength. And I'm excited for next year. So
yeah. So right now, filming this, what is December 2nd or 3rd or something like that?
Yeah.
4th, 3rd.
3rd. Yeah.
So you said you're doing it in the interim. Are you guys busy right now?
Yeah. Definitely enough to keep 2 estimators busy. Probably like 8 to 10 estimates each.
Okay, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Considering how much the season slows down, that's pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of repeat business, and I'm dialed in on the marketing for the most part. So
that's good. Yeah, we'll definitely get into that because as I mentioned, people want to hear about marketing and how you're marketing 2.3 million in business. What when you think about next year, you said you're excited for. What are you excited about for next year?
Yeah, every year I learn a lot, man. So
yeah,
those lessons from this year and implementing them into next year. This year was a big. So I know we'll go backwards, but it was basically a rebuild year.
Mm-hmm.
So hiring new team members, I brought on 3 new people, let go of 1, but those other 2 that are sticking around are amazing. So having them take over ownership over their role, like I just I can see what's possible, and I'm excited to see it
Like, what
unfold.
are you setting as your goals for next year?
I think I'm going to go 3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more than possible, especially because we're having a lot more commercial just kind of pop
Falling
up.
in your lap.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great, man. Why do you what's the biggest, like, so if you go do 3 million next year, or you set out to do 3 million, what would be the thing that would limit you from doing 3 million? Is it like marketing? Is it sales performance? Is it like what's the constraint, or what would be the biggest threat to hitting 3 million next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think marketing's always, uh, it's always a struggle. Not struggle, I guess isn't the right word, but a challenge. And it's always changing, right? So you kind of have to adapt as the game changes. Um, so that will be something. I mean, I know that we have weaknesses there. Facebook being one of them. So building that out, figuring that out, and sales is always something too. Like I just said, I'm going to bring on a new salesperson, so getting that person up and running, making sure I choose the right person, train him enough, all of that. So
Yeah.
those would be the things that I'd be paying attention to. Um, I feel really good about the production side. Like I said, we have had some issues, but um,
Have you
my,
found that most of those issues are sales related?
you know, a
Like
little.
bad expectations, underbid
Yeah,
jobs? Like, has it been more sales issues that create the production issues?
I was going to say expectation setting is a big part of it for sure.
Hmm.
Um, that's definitely been a constraint because if you don't set up the PM for success, like it's not going to go well. So, but also, not to share too much, but my ops manager, one of my PMs, he had some health issues, so that kind of set us back a little bit too.
Yeah.
So that popping up, you just don't know what will happen in people's personal life. So, but other than that, I mean, it's just been like silly mistakes. So just cleaning up those silly mistakes.
Yeah. One of the things that we've noticed is that it continues to be the source of like most production issues these days is still expectation setting, and particularly it's with newer sales reps, right? Because so you're bringing on this new rep in January, and some of the changes we're making is we're just going to have production managers go and do estimates with sales reps as part of their onboarding, because I think that's one of the reasons that business owners sell really well is they do the production too, and so they actually set expectations the right way, and oftentimes it includes saying things like, yeah, we'll do that, but just so you know, it's not going to look good.
Yeah.
And we're that actually helps sell more jobs because it builds more trust, rather than someone being like, oh yeah, like promising the moon,
Yeah.
promising the world to customers doesn't actually sell more jobs, but sales reps tend to do that. So anyways, these production managers, like, super knowledgeable, like they know their craft inside and out, they know what to look for, they know how to set the expectations. So what we've noticed, because we've already been doing this for a bit, we've noticed that, for one, production managers kind of love it. Our production manager sales rates are like through the roof. Like they crush, and so they have fun doing it, like they enjoy doing it, but it's also like really good training for the sales team, and it massively shortens that time, because the way we did it for way too many years was like, well, eventually they'll learn all the lessons by screwing up that, because there's just so many of them. And we're
Mhm.
like, dude, there's like, yeah, it takes some time from a production manager, but how much time does it save them?
Right.
Like one job that has poor expectations and kind of goes a little south costs them like how much time? And so is it worth doing, some onboarding and training? So anyways, it's just something to consider. And you've heard me talk about how much we like everybody undertrains.
Yeah.
It's like massive undertraining, and we're still finding like, all right, where are we still undertraining?
Right.
So that's something that I know has already helped, but we're going to make it like way more standardized.
Yeah. Now I've been doing a lot more like, getting out there and shadowing and giving feedback. And then also, we actually transitioned from doing like one-on-one meetings, where it's just me with the PM, me with
Mhm.
the salesperson, to doing a team meeting, GSR. So everyone kind of talks openly,
Yeah.
and yeah, that feedback loop has been really helpful.
I would, yeah. What have you when did you start doing that?
It's been about 2, 3 months.
Were you always doing a team meeting and one-on-ones?
No, we didn't have any team
You had
meetings.
no team meeting.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was one-on-ones, and then I mean, honestly, I did it mainly out of a necessity to like free up some of my time because I was
Yeah.
doing 4-5 meetings a week, and then I was saying the same thing to 5 people. So I just put it all together, and then since then it's become a much more cohesive unit. I don't know, and nobody's surprised when a change happens because we all have talked about it. We came to the conclusion together, and yeah, it just feels different, and I'm having fun.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's like building a team, I mean, you want to absolutely have a team meeting for that purpose. And then once the team gets bigger, which like the Foothills team is really big, that team meeting is different, but we still have the like meeting between the heads of department so they can keep things aligned.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
still have a sales meeting and a production meeting. We're still doing those smaller meetings.
Smaller groups. Okay. All right. So that makes sense where you might get away from the one-on-ones because you need it, not doing any one-on-ones would also be a mistake because that's where like the personal development and training typically happens. So how you're managing that in group meetings?
Yeah, so we do a sales meeting. It was me and the 2 salespeople, and then the production meeting, which is the production manager or the operations manager, and
Yeah.
then his two PMs as well. So, um, yeah, so that's really what it was. Um, I like the one-to-ones, but I'm doing more one-to-ones as like lunches. Like we're just checking in, kind of having a conversation, and there's coaching happening there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little more casual.
So obviously you're going to be doing some sales now that you got the sales rep gone. But once you replace them, like what's your schedule look like at this level of business?
So, like I said, you caught me at a funny time. So right now it's a little crazy. But
Yeah, don't tell us the right now because you're in
yeah,
a transition. But how it was a month ago and how it's going to be by
yeah,
March.
yeah. So as far as like hours, I don't really track it too much. Like I'm
Yeah.
available at 5, right? But I go on walks with the dog. I spend time with the family. Play guitar randomly through the day. So I would guess like 30 hours.
Yeah.
And I like working, for the record. So I don't think I'll ever be the guy that works 10 hours a week. I just don't think I'm interested in that, like ever. But 30 is pretty solid. And yeah, spending time with the meetings that I just mentioned, sales,
Is
production.
that on Mondays?
Uh, no, actually, I have them kind of spread out middays. So I have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So like around noon each week.
Hmm.
So Mondays and Fridays are pretty open for me to work on bigger picture stuff. Like Monday, I spend a lot of time on marketing, as an example. Um, Fridays, sometimes I don't work at all. Go golf, right? So, um, yeah, that's most of how I spend the time. And then, it's worth mentioning. Like I said, I had a baby, and he was in
Yeah.
the NICU for 45 days, and my wife was in the hospital for 11 days, and I got to spend the full 11 days in the hospital with her, and the company still ran, and visiting the baby twice a day, and yeah, so
Yeah. What are the things so if not just the hours, but like what you do. So like, what are the things you need to do every week? So,
yeah.
when you're in the hospital for 11 days or just supporting family, or you're going on, what are the things that are really needed from you weekly? So if
Yeah.
you had to narrow down your schedule as much as possible, obviously you got the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday meeting. How long are those?
Uh, Anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half.
So call them an hour each. And
Yeah.
then how much time do you have to dedicate to marketing every week?
Probably about an hour on our, let's say 2 hours on Monday.
So that's not
Um,
bad.
yeah, I think
What else is there that you got to do?
that 2 hour, 3 hour block on Monday is between marketing and financials. So it just depends on what needs more attention.
All right, so maybe financials another hour.
Yeah.
What else?
Um, I mean, outside of that, it's mostly just like uh, coaching, you know, setting up culture events or like team events, fun stuff.
All right, so you got yourself like roughly 6 hours of required work,
Mhm.
right, between your meetings and all that, and then the rest of it is
Coaching.
random calls.
Yeah.
right? Like how often are you checking in with your team throughout the week and day to day? Like how often are they calling you? Like what's that look like?
I mean, it's funny. It depends on the week.
Yeah.
Yesterday I didn't talk to anybody. So,
So it was Monday. Yeah.
right, which is usually a crazy day.
So Monday was, so yesterday was like a 3 hour workday for you?
Well, I did estimates because
Oh, that's right. Because the weird
if I
schedule.
didn't
So
do estimates, I would have been done by noon.
yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty, what's nice about that schedule is like, yeah, you're working, but it's like very casual working,
Yeah. No.
it's totally, so a lot of your schedule right now at this level is like making calls that you want to make, not obligation. So you've got a 6 hour schedule, but then lunches, hanging out with your team, coaching and training people.
Yeah.
It's
I've
great,
been
man.
I've been doing a lot more networking too.
Yep.
So meeting GCs and roofers and all that. So spending some more time bringing on referral partners, and then yeah, like I was saying, big projects too. So I'm trying to grow the brand a little bit more, build systems a little bit more, build the culture a little bit more. So anything that I can work on in that realm, that's what I want to work on.
All right, man. So, why don't we go back real quick? Because I know you mentioned that you're like rebuilding and everything right now, which I knew. I know that this has been a pretty. What was it? 2 years ago that the partnership ended. Is this the first full year that you're running it solo?
Yeah, this is the first full year. Actually, it was last year
Uh-huh.
that it ended, but I will say it was like a 6 month process.
Yeah.
So
Not easy, man. It's like it's a divorce.
yeah,
I mean, ending a partnership is tough. Obviously, Spencer. My good buddy, and
I
yeah,
do.
that was like 6 to 8 months, maybe even longer. Of like, how do we separate this partnership?
Yeah,
Anything you want to, just before we even move on. So, well,
yeah,
let's just go back. So, obviously, why don't you start with how you even got into the business and when you got into it, and
sure.
we'll kind of cruise through some of those early years and talk about this rebuild.
Yeah. So first year, honestly, I had a great time. My brother and I started it together, um, and we did a lot of hustling, and I had a good time doing it. I was selling, he was producing, and we were probably doing, I don't know, 60-hour work weeks. Something. I can remember actually like 10:30 at night being in the office with him and just being like having so much fun. Um,
Isn't that funny how you can look back on those? Like, I mean, some of my most insane days where I made no money and worked the hardest, I look back on fondly. They're
yeah.
great memories.
The thing is though, that doesn't get you. It gets you to 500. It doesn't get you to 2 million, right?
No,
So we continued to do that for a couple of years and realized that wasn't the way. And we started when we started the business. We found you as a coach, but then we found a lot more coaching as we kept going as
yeah,
well. And combine all that together, and we're trying to build the team. And we just didn't get lucky on the first couple hires, and
I'm not gonna let that pass.
yeah, then
Like implying that good hires are about luck.
some people get lucky, but I hired the wrong people is really what it was.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and just for anyone listening, no such thing as getting lucky with hires. If you get lucky with a hire, you're gonna lose them.
yeah, right.
Because lucky with a hire means you just happen to somehow get the right great person,
Yeah,
and that just also means you didn't actually have good team building systems in place, and you're going to lose that great person.
right.
So luck is not a good strategy.
No, and as time went on, I got better and better
Yeah.
at training, and I got more systems, and I felt pretty strongly that I was, dialed in my training and coaching systems. And I had a salesperson with us for 2.5 years, right? And so this is kind of an important part of the journey because it was where I really learned who I'm looking for in the business.
Yep.
And I guess that's really what you mean by it's not luck, because I really didn't know who I was looking for. I thought I did, which somebody who can sell $1 million, that's not
Yep.
really what I was looking for. So he's with us for about 2 years, and then about 9 months at the very end, I was trying to do some coaching, trying to get him up, get him to level up. He had been pretty much at 25 to 30% sales ratio that whole time, and that's definitely not what's possible. There's a lot more left. There's money left on the table there.
A
And so,
lot,
yeah, and
like
so
twice as much.
right. So I started, yeah, I know that now. Uh,
What was your sales rate? What's your sales rate these days?
so so
You.
last year I ended up about 68%, and
Yeah.
that's not including like contractors. So if you
Right.
throw in like the
Yeah.
contractors that I don't
To
really,
72 or something because it's a low volume of bid, so it doesn't change it that much.
yeah, but I don't have to sell it. It's a
Right.
100% sales ratio.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to count
But
that.
just I asked you that, Bruce, because for people to have a benchmark,
Yeah.
because you're operating your business at 50% gross margins, right?
Yeah, aiming for that, but we're at 46 this year.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yikes!
Yeah.
All right, yeah, that needs some cleaning up, but okay.
So
But you're
two things there, just real quick.
yeah.
One, I didn't raise my prices in time, and then materials and labor caught up to me, and I had to like compensate.
Hmm.
And then like I said, just some silly production.
Yep. Silly stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so but price, I don't think it's probably price. So your prices are accurate now.
Yes.
And so selling jobs at a 50% gross margin
Yeah.
as the owner, like 70%, I think is the benchmark. Like you should be close to 70%. And obviously a bunch of those are referrals, but a bunch of them aren't referrals.
Yeah. No, true.
Like a lot of that's not referral work also. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm selling paid leads too.
Yeah.
So
Whether it's Facebook or what are some of the other lead sources?
we do really well on Thumbtack. Actually,
Uh-huh.
that's a big source for us.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Facebook, and then I'm in BNI still. Well, I rejoined BNI,
Yep.
and then yeah, referrals, repeat business, and SEO. And we did run a PPC campaign, but I've heard you talk.
Yep. Okay. Well, we'll come back. We'll come back to all this marketing stuff. But point is, your 68% sales rate is what you were doing. So, not to derail this. So back on track. So you have the sales rep for 2 years is selling 25 to 30%,
Right.
leaving a bunch of money on the table.
So I did a lot of coaching. I had a lot of conversations, and I probably took too much time. Actually, I talked to you about this when it happened.
Yeah.
I spent about 9 months coaching him, and I just couldn't get through to him. And part of that was a disconnect between him and my brother, who was still my business partner at the time. They weren't really in alignment. That was part of it, but really, just he didn't believe that more than 30% was possible. Like,
Yep.
truly did not believe that. So it came to a certain point where I had to let him go. And honestly, it really sucked. Like, I love the guy. I still,
Yeah.
grieve that loss. But yeah, I had to let him go, and I took over sales, and that was 2020, end of 2022, and immediately, like right out of the gate, I was selling 58%.
Yep. I mean, like I remember when we had these conversations.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like an instant increase in profit and performance. Just statistically, with just like you taking over sales, the business doubled and got more profitable as a percentage because you weren't paying that sales commission.
Yeah.
And it removed a whole bunch of production problems and stresses. So like in a weird way, you didn't end up working that much more than you were before, just because
Right.
you were working in different ways. Instead of coaching an underperformer and constantly dealing with his problems,
Yep.
you were just doing sales. And so it's
Well,
always amazing how the business can grow when you get rid of the wrong people.
that underperformance and that kind of complaining, that like those excuses just bled into everybody else. So I wasn't just coaching him. Now I'm coaching everyone else to kind of bring all of the morale up. And, instead of just making the decision, I made the decision. He was gone, and everybody's morale just shot up immediately without me doing anything.
Yep.
Trying to kind of like maintain this artificial harmony, if you will.
Well, what's funny too is I'm sure you experienced this. I'd be curious if you did. But usually when it's time to fire somebody, after you fire them, we almost universally people wait too long to make the firing.
Yeah.
And then once you make the firing, you find out that it was actually worse than you even realized. Like all these other things come out,
Yep.
which is why I've kind of learned to I've learned to basically fire pretty quickly, because if you see things that make you even consider firing, you're not ever seeing all of it.
Yeah.
And so what were there examples of that you found that like things were worse than you even realized and you knew it was bad?
Yeah. And it honestly, so happy that happened because I learned so much from it. Like follow-ups really weren't happening like at all.
Yep.
Okay. So that's why you're selling 28%,
Yeah.
like call the people again, and maybe shoot a text here and there, like maybe 10 texts a week. Like, what are we doing? So So that was a big one.
We fired a guy once. We fired a sales guy once. And then Hunter, this was in Elkhorn, and Hunter had his office manager just follow up with all the estimates and bids he'd done. And like 30% of the people she called were like, we never got the bid from him. He said he was going to send it. He never sent it. We're like, oh my God, 130-year estimates. You never sent the estimate, dude.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's always worse than you think it is. So if you've got someone that you already are like a little frustrated with, just know that like it's worse than you think. And so you probably need to rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Another one on that note too is well, first of all, I called a lot of his customers and closed a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And I think they would have called us, So please, as a salesperson out there, please follow up with your people. You're leaving money on the table. And then
Yeah, you just pick up and they're like, yeah.
they were like surprised to hear
collecting
from
money.
me. Yeah, but they were never going to call us. So, and I love sales, so that was actually pretty fun, and very validating. And then another one that just happened is same thing again, not following up, but also he was canceling estimates.
Huh.
Yeah, like calling and like not getting a hold of them and just canceling instead. And I didn't even know. So, yeah, pretty silly. So I'm spending money on those leads, not getting the estimate and not getting the sale for sure.
Yeah, pretty rough, man. So, okay. Let's just so people can get the picture. So you started the business with your brother, and what was that, 2017, 18?
18.
18. I remember you did $500,000 in your first year. I think you guys grew it up to $1 million the next year. So that was 18, 19. And then what was like what happened over the next like 2 to 3 years running this thing with you and your brother?
Yeah, we kind of like hovered around like 1.5 for a while there.
Yeah.
A lot of that was, mom and dad are fighting kind of thing. Yeah. So it's pretty hard to lead a team if you're not on the same page. So we sorted that out, and I eventually bought him out. That salesperson stayed with us through that whole time. So that was another big obstacle.
Right. Being that salesperson, the one who doesn't call it back his appointments.
Yeah, the 2.5 years that he was with us. And, and yeah, I take full ownership over that. I didn't even check I just asked and he said, yeah, I'm making my ups. And I was like, okay, cool. Moving on. So not having those conversations. And then, I had to grow as a leader quite a bit in this time. So, going through a buyout is like, you got to learn a lot about yourself. You got to be objective. You got to have a lot of difficult conversations. So yeah, I'm not scared anymore to confront any issue. So, yeah, we pretty much hovered there, and that was a big part of it. As soon as I let go of that salesperson and then bought out my brother. So in that time, we hired more people and we didn't grow. So we had more salespeople and more PMs, and we didn't grow. I eventually found my operations manager. Now he was my project manager for a while.
Yeah.
His name's Rob. He's awesome. And he's been with us actually 3 years Friday. So last Friday was his 3-year anniversary. And he was with me through all that too, which is, pretty awesome. So he was steadfast, and he's always been, the kind of guy who does what he says he's going to do. And so he stayed with me. My wife came on throughout all of that turmoil, and she stayed with me last year, and it was just me, Rob, and Ashley, and we did 1.8 million with just us.
So that was 2023.
Yep.
1.8 million. Bruce, office manager, project manager. So you sold 1.8 million. Rob produced 1.8 million, and then your wife supported you. The office and calls and a ton of other marketing, probably a little bit, and things like that.
Yeah, all the social media and answering the phone, setting up the estimates. So
that had to be a pretty profitable year, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know off the top of my head, but above 20 for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because you had no sales commission. Yeah. And just compared to, you look at the next year at 2.3 million, which is this year, but having, 3 more team members. Yeah. I'm guessing the margins were maybe even bottom line, like total profit dollars might have been more in 2023. But that's okay because, because you're in growth mode. Like you basically have all the infrastructure to do 3 now, but you only did 2.3. So
Yeah.
I can see why I can see why you're eyeing 3 for next year.
Yeah, a big part of last year, man, was like I said, was struggling to kind of get through to that salesperson. I just wanted to see what could be done, and
Right.
so I wanted to just do it myself and see what I'm going to take ownership over everything because it's my business. So I know that I'm going to do everything necessary to hit the goal, and I did. And 1.8 is apparently the new benchmark. Like that
Yep.
is possible, residential only too. So
Right.
throwing commercial, and I think it could even be more. So
Well, and it's not like it should actually be. That's a good benchmark because, yeah, you had a high sales rate, but you also still ran the business. You still met with Rob. You're still, a sales rep coming in doesn't have to manage the office, has nothing to do with marketing, doesn't overview financials, doesn't manage a project manager. It's like 1.8 for sure is a benchmark for a sales rep.
yeah,
And that could be higher or lower in different markets depending on average job size. What is your guys' average job size?
right now it's about 5,500.
Okay. Yep. So pretty healthy. And I feel like that's pretty standard. In a lot of states, it's even higher than that.
Yeah,
Um, all right, man. So let's dive into. I thought there were three good things we could dive into here. So one would just be like these sales lessons,
yeah,
really not sales, but sales management lessons.
sure.
I think there's a lot of great stuff we can pull out of there for people
Yeah,
that probably could save a lot of time.
yeah.
And then partnership lessons.
Hmm.
I think that'd be valuable, and then we'll dig into what is working for marketing. That's always it's always going to be the bottleneck of a business, but also you're still doing 2.3 million, and you know with you see opportunities to grow. So I think we should dive into those three. So starting with the sales lessons, first of all, like what it, I don't know if have you ever thought through like what those mistakes cost you?
Well, yeah, definitely.
I'm just
Yeah, one thing is peace of mind. I mean, I was
uh-huh.
I was not having a good time for a couple of years there, man. So
Yeah. Can you
uh,
say more about that?
yeah, I mean, I would honestly. So I had my GSR with that salesperson on Monday mornings, and Monday mornings I would wake up and just not be happy to go to work,
Yeah.
straight up. And my wife was there the whole time, and she's just like you can't keep doing this. This is not
Hmm.
it's not fun. So uh, yeah, what hindsight, I would have let him go a lot sooner. So um,
Yep.
and backing up even further, I would have done a lot more training at the beginning too.
Yep.
So a lot more alignment. Um, yeah, and then as far as financially, I mean, years of growth.
Yeah.
If I if I had, well, it's tough because I also am like pretty grateful that I went through this, because the pain teaches you wholeheartedly like this can't happen again, and what do I actually think about this aspect or that aspect of sales. And I can say with full conviction, make your follow-ups. It's not even a question. I don't care if you think you're being annoying, call them anyway. So yeah.
Well, I think that looking at the like what it cost, I always do that. you know, I'm always related to like my mistakes and how much just straight money a bad decision cost me,
Yeah,
because that's mostly what this was.
yeah,
It was just a bad judgment call,
yeah, for sure.
and
On that.
I just chose to turn left instead of turning right, and that cost me $200,000 or whatever, because it probably was more. It was probably more than that in net profit over those 2 years.
Well, thinking about the top line revenue and what that could have been, uh, there's a ton of money there, but just even where we were with the revenue that we had, yeah. Because if your sales ratio is low, then all your other spend is going to be higher too.
Percentage wise, yeah.
It cuts into your margin quite a
Yeah.
bit. You pretty much have to be at 40 or higher to hit, the net margins that we want to hit to have a healthy business. So, yeah, probably around like 100,000 each year. So
Yeah, I mean, we could probably break that down because the moment you took over sales, what you went from he was selling 20K a week and then you were selling 40.
yeah, yeah, I average about 37.5, I think, for
Yeah,
last
so
year.
it was costing like 17K a week in additional revenue and then 1,400 a week in his commission.
Yep.
So $1,400 a week times 2 years is what? That's 75 grand, 150 grand on just his commission.
Yeah.
And then you would have done an extra 15K a week in sales. That's another 1.5 million.
Right. And
So
then,
30%. So that's 500K.
yeah,
So it probably cost you like 650,000 compared to like if I would have just fired him and done sales myself those 2 years.
sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like I said, I am still grateful that it happened because I learned a
Well,
lot about being a,
yeah, that's
but
not. I'm sorry. Let me clarify a couple things. So one is the reason to look at that is like just I think it's important to be related to the cost of bad decisions.
yeah,
You
right.
know, because you can learn that the lessons, but also like you can learn lessons, some other lessons in there too. Of like what's going to be the like that was a high school lesson. What's the bachelor version of that lesson? What's the graduate school version of that lesson? What's
Yeah,
the PhD version of that lesson?
yeah,
Because that lesson was 600 costs about $650,000 plus it delayed where you are now by 2 years,
yeah,
you
for sure.
know. Um which you're going to make a lot more money now because you made those decisions. So I think that's why I'm asking. It's just I think it's valuable for you, but also just for people listening. Like these are not small. Like these are not small things. They're small things, but they're huge, impactful things. When you
Right.
get into this level of building a team, um, man, little things are not little. I mean, it's just crazy the impact that it has.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately that whole time I was kind of just settling for mediocrity and, deciding I was okay with letting that money, sit on the table. And yeah,
So, yeah. So what were the and I'm with you too, Bruce. That I it's both are true. Like one, man, that was so costly, and
hmm
also yeah, like now I know, and I would rather though learn those lessons without paying the 650.
yeah,
I would much rather
yeah,
figure that out, and so I'm trying to do better myself at that, like learn lessons without having to learn them all the hard way. But
right.
the ones I had to learn the hard way, that's okay. So both can be true.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
now, what were the lessons? So if you start to look back, like what were those wrong decisions along the way? What did you think before that was wrong, and now you think about things differently? Like what were the big lessons?
Yeah, so a big part of the whole journey has been learning what type of people I want to have around me. And first, that starts with like, who do I want to be? You know. So I've done a lot of therapy and a lot of coaching and trying to kind of get to the bottom of what is a happy life. And for me, it's taking ownership over the circumstances in my life, learning a lot, and then sharing that with the people around me, right? So now that I figured that out for myself, I can look back and see that I was just trying to take shortcuts, um, and hire people who are high performers and not necessarily people who actually fit the culture that I said I cared about. Integrity has been one of our core values from the very beginning. And this person, this salesperson definitely did not operate with integrity. And I just kind of let it go, which is then not integrity on my end, right? So figuring out who those people are and getting really, really clear on it has been a game changer. And I think that's why I've had the success I've had with the hires that I've made this year. Um, like I said, I like one go, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yep.
And so then once they're on board with us, am I really doing everything in my power to make them successful, to help them hit their goals? And are their goals even in alignment with our goals? And so, yeah, getting really clear on who I am, who I want around me, and are we in alignment in terms of, you know, our vision for our lives.
Yep. Um, what were some of the more? Yeah, I mean, I think that's super important. Why did you step over those things? Like looking back, like what was the justification Because I think that's where the trap happens for people is like, man, it was like 2 years of like continuing to step over this thing,
Yeah.
step over, step over. So like more day to day, more tactically, like what were the things you were missing or ignoring that you shouldn't have?
Yeah. Difficult conversations, one, just not confronting the issues, especially not directly. Um, so I would kind of like talk around them or have like a group meeting where we talk about the lesson instead of just, talking directly to the person and being like,
Yeah.
what's going on. So that's a big one. And then, it was almost like I let good enough get in the way of great, you know, like I'm making enough money. It's fine. I don't have to work super hard. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like for those 2.5 years, I was not in the field. Like I was just working at the office, and kind of spinning my wheels, making up stuff to work on sometimes, just so I didn't have to go out there and do coaching.
Yep.
But yeah, so just making excuses. I mean, that's really what it was. So
Well, and I think the more valuable thing than like making excuses kind of ends up being everything could fall under that category,
yeah,
but looking at it like, man, I feel like maybe we had that talk because I've shared it with a lot of people over the years, but like, what's the thing you're just avoiding? It's like,
yeah,
I don't want to fire the guy because I don't want to have to do it. I
no,
don't
yeah,
want to fire him because I don't want to go do the coaching. I don't want to, I don't want to do X. And I saw actually in your prep with Christiana,
exactly,
what's the business need from me?
exactly.
And if you're not giving the business what it needs, then it's not going to grow.
Yeah,
Like, so what have you kind of realized along those lines?
yeah. I mean, the business speaks to you, So there's a lot of things that I've been saying this actually a lot lately. Like, I'm ready, I'm willing.
Yep.
Whatever it is, I'm ready, I'm willing. And so, just looking at things objectively, marketing is a good example where I know we're not doing enough in terms of, you know, generating content and uh, figuring out certain, well, Facebook and Google. Um, Google's been a lot better lately, but Facebook specifically, like figuring out how to make that work and, um, you know, working on myself as a coach, being willing to just speak objectively and not, one of my biggest weaknesses and has been since I started my sales career is I want people to like me. Uh, I've always been that way. I've always wanted that. And working around that and figuring that out has been, my journey. So, um, part of the reason I didn't have those difficult conversations is because I wanted him to like me.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's not what's best for me. It's not what's best for the business. And it's definitely not what's best for the people that touch the business, like the customers, the employees, the vendors, and the subs.
So if I underline a couple things on these sales lessons that I would think are some really critical ones. One is avoiding important conversations. And then two is not doing the work that's needed or required,
Yep.
like avoiding work.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one though is how were you justifying his low performance for so long?
How was I justifying it?
Like, because you tolerated pretty awful performance for 2 years. That's not like 2 months or 3 months, There had to be something there. And I think whatever you were working through, other people, same thing. I mean, I can probably relate to it too.
Yeah, I
But
think. How did I justify it? I mean, like, if I was speaking like my logic at the time was when I was selling, I was selling 40%. So then him selling, close to 30 was like, okay, that's pretty good. It's decent enough. And
mm,
then over time that got to the point where I was like, I don't think that is good enough.
yeah,
And I think that I could do better. And that whole time that he was selling, I was still working on my um, sales education. I love sales, for the record.
right.
I've been in sales for over 10 years, and just the growth that I've had has been awesome. So I'm still learning or still reading books that whole time and doing courses.
Hmm.
And I was like, I just feel like maybe there's something here. And so, yeah, my logic was off. And then again, just avoiding
Yeah.
the difficult conversations, avoiding getting out there and doing the coaching, that kind of thing.
Well, and look, I think I put a lot of benchmarks out on like what I think you should be aiming for. Something you even mentioned on this was, you need to be at a 40% sales rate to be able to hit all the profit numbers in the business.
Yep.
So I think being related to like our my numbers actually good, and are
Yeah.
my team numbers actually good?
Right.
Because that's just a great lesson. Is like, oh, you were tolerating it because you didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even as I've been continuing my journey, I started out like, okay, 13% net isn't bad. Okay, maybe 15. Oh, maybe 20. Oh, you could do over 20? Like, no
Mm-hmm.
way. That's crazy. So,
Yep.
um, yeah, it's what is, I mean, this is your uh, you know, mantra, discover what's possible, right? It's a little bit crazy what's possible in this business, and you just don't, I don't know. I did not realize that those numbers were possible
Yep.
until I saw them happening.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you see something else is possible now, and then you get there, and then something else becomes possible, and
Yeah.
you can see the next mountaintop, but you can't see the one that's behind it until you're at that peak or getting closer to it, and then you see the next one and the next one, and it's one of the beautiful things about business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just throw in there too. Like a lot of this was just me playing small and playing safe. Like I have a team. I don't want to like shake rock the boat. And doing that was just a disservice to everyone
Mm.
involved.
All right, so that's where the quantifying it like $650,000. Like it's like, yeah, you were paying for like comfort,
Yeah.
but was it worth 650? Because the truth is that the comfort I'm paying for, I have comfort by avoiding this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but the stuff never solves itself by avoiding it.
No.
And
Yeah.
so eventually you've got to solve the problem. Like
Mm-hmm.
it does not ever disappear. And so you're eventually going to have to deal with it. The longer you wait, the more that the first week it cost you 1,500, and then it cost you $3,000, and then it cost you $4,000, and then it was 30,000. And it's like these things cost money. You can't ignore problems. Problems don't fix themselves when being ignored. They only fix themselves when you do something about them. So anyways, really useful. And I would just say, hey, where, for your own thinking is like, where do I make the more higher level version of these mistakes?
Yeah.
Because you will. Like I've just seen it in myself and everybody I coach is like, you make the same patterns and mistakes. They just get harder to notice, more subtle, but they're not that much less impactful. And so, where am I going to make that same mistake with an office manager, with a production manager, with the next sales rep, when I'm building coaches and leaders? Where have I still not leveled up my training enough?
Mm-hmm.
That's where there's going to be a lot of opportunities to learn, squeeze even more value out of those lessons, so that the 650 was a little more worth it
Yeah.
than it already is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've already been thinking and slowing down and seeing where I'm looking for where I might be taking shortcuts because there is no such thing.
Yeah.
There is no shortcut. And usually the shortcut is actually just making it take longer. So,
Almost universally, yeah. When I try to take the shortcut, it takes longer because I spent time on the shortcut, which means I wasn't spending time doing the long cut the right way.
right.
And
Yeah.
the only way to do it is the right way. And the shortcut is never the same path as the right way. So yeah, the shortcut's always going to take longer. The fastest path is like, you just do this thing right every step of the way from the beginning. You don't step over things. Run a tight ship. Real quick, just because I want to spend some time on marketing. So
Yeah.
if you were to sum up like the big lessons from having a partnership and then and ending a partnership, maybe something also about like that you did it with family.
Yeah.
Yeah, what just advice would you give to someone who's considering a partnership, or maybe someone who's in a partnership that they know isn't working?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it starts with deciding who to partner with, right? And family dynamics do play into it. So you have to be aware of what that family dynamic is, first of all. Um, our dynamic was, older brother, younger brother, and that got in the way quite a bit. And also just an alignment of like, what do you guys actually want? That was another thing is I want to grow this business to 10 million beyond. And my brother was pretty much happy making $150,000. He's good there. So um, if we were just not in alignment on like where we wanted this to go, and it's not going to work. So um, Then once you're in that situation and you know there's not an alignment, like address it right away, talk about it right away. Um, and the big thing for us that we finally got to after, 6 months of basically going through a divorce is it's okay to not be on the same page. It's okay to not want the same things. But maybe then you don't stay partners, you know? So, like any divorce, messy in the middle, for the best at the end. We're great now, for the record. You know, he came over to meet my son and everything. Like, we still hang out. But I want this real bad, and he didn't want this real bad.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Well, it's like man, even if you try to have those conversations at the very beginning, you probably wouldn't have known you're not aligned, because at the beginning you were aligned, which was like, let's start a business and just not have this job, or whatever the reason was. Then you do discover what you want along the way. Just like I know you've been rediscovering, like, what's actually important to me. Like, is it just chasing it? Is it the quality of life? Is it the way I'm doing it? Is it the people I work with?
Who are you doing
So
it for?
yeah, it's tough
Are you
to
doing it
know
for
that.
yourself? Are you doing it for your family? Or are you doing it so that other people think you look cool?
Yep.
That's a big one.
Yep. It's a real trap to do it to look cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's why a lot of like revenue for vanity, right? Like I run a $2 million company. Like, so what's your bottom line?
Yep.
Some people don't even mention that part.
Well, if they don't mention it, there's a reason why.
Yeah,
That's why I always ask it here, because if you're not making good margins, then what are you doing?
right. What's the point? I'd rather do $1 million at 30% margin than $2 million at 10.
Well, I think that was a big turning point for you, was when you fired the sales rep and decided, I'm just going to actually like do sales
Yeah,
and run a healthy company. And you made a ton more money and you enjoyed it. And it wasn't, I mean, that was all bottom line and quality of life. That was a bottom line and quality of life decision.
yeah. I had a great time. It was
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I know it's possible for a salesperson. So when I bring someone on and they're like, oh, I can only sell 25%, like bullshit.
Even if they're at 40, you're like, you can do better. Like,
Yeah.
and that's one of the most important parts of diving in. All right. So, marketing, man. So yeah, let's walk through marketing. So 2.3 million. Can you just share? You shared a little bit earlier. So you're getting into Facebook a little bit, doing well with Thumbtack, referrals, BNI. Like, where's the, looking at like the 80/20, like where does most of your business come from?
So we actually probably do about 45% of our business still comes from referrals and repeat business.
Great.
Yeah. So
$1 million a year on referrals and repeat.
yeah, it's still the heart of our business.
Yep.
Google, probably right after that. Facebook, and then Thumbtack, and then BNI, and then trickle down to all the other random ones.
Well, and if you look at BNI and commercial, like what was the total revenue out of that this year? What do you say?
I mean, I can tell you real quick if I just check.
Yep.
So BNI is about 100K, and then contractors about 200.
All right, so 300 grand, so 15% of the business ish, a little bit, yeah, a little less than that. 13% of the business is contractors and BNI,
Mhm.
and then repeats like $1 million.
Yeah, repeat and referral together.
Yep, got it.
Yeah,
it's about $1 million. And then Google, is that just like website SEO? Does that include pay per click? Does that include Google local service ads?
I mean, that's a funny thing. I don't really have I have not tracked paid versus organic, so I don't know the answer actually.
Okay, so you've got, so like Google though, how much was it?
360.
All right, 360K. And out of that, so that, are you ranked organically?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So you've got organic rankings. And then did you do pay per click or Google local service ads, or did you do a little bit of both?
Pay per click. Local service ads, we've been kind of sandbagged.
What do you mean?
Like we're at the bottom of the list, even though we're at the top of the list in organic. So,
so you just haven't been able to figure out how to make that one work yet?
Yeah, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to, and it's just hasn't clicked yet. But I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Okay.
At some point, one thing that is worth mentioning, I'm pretty proud of, is I used to work in digital marketing, and I worked for a company that was very good and
Yeah.
expensive, though, right? So I have slowly worked my way back up to now they work for me. That company that I used to work for is now my SEO and pay per click provider.
Nice.
And I have a lot of confidence that they're going to help me figure this out.
Got it. Okay, cool. So, you mentioned earlier that you've done some pay per click with Google,
Yeah.
but you haven't been able to attribute leads to it, or it
Yeah.
hasn't worked, or what was your experience with pay per click?
I haven't really, like, I haven't separated whether the Google leads came from SEO or from pay per click. So I actually don't know the answer. I will say that we turned off our pay per click for the rest of this year, and it hasn't slowed down. So I'm thinking maybe that was a lot of wasted money, but we're going to find out.
That would line up with what my experience has universally been.
Yeah.
We spent across a portfolio of companies, we spent like $25,000
Sure.
a month and saw no change in estimates.
Mm. Yes.
And a lot of the pay-per-click companies will say, "Oh, but you're going to see more here." It's like, no, there's no way, no matter how you slice this, like this is not delivering results.
Yeah.
And I have yet to find someone who can show me attributable data that says, yes, I can directly see, like, I started spending this money and this is the attribution. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't, no one, I haven't found a single person. It's not like I haven't looked, because there's a lot of traffic going through Google.
Yeah.
But anyways, as far as I can tell, pay-per-click is not a place that painting contractors ought to be investing in.
Even the company that I'm working with that I feel strongly is very good at it. They would say the best you could expect is like a 3x return. So
Right.
you spend $1.
30% cost of marketing.
Exactly.
Make no money. Literally not profitable.
Right. That's the best that they can expect.
Yeah, which is probably $500 an estimate, which is like often what you see. Okay,
Yeah.
so that doesn't work. So you got $1 million from repeat, 360K from Google, and then you get more business from Facebook than Thumbtack?
Actually, I think they're pretty much even. No, actually, I get more business from Thumbtack than Facebook.
How much?
260 from Thumbtack and 130 from Facebook.
Do you have in your reports you've got pulled up there? Do you have cost of marketing on all this stuff? Obviously, repeat. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so let's see. Facebook is high at 33, and the other
33% cost of marketing.
Yeah,
That's
SEO and
brutal.
ads is at 20%.
What
Again,
is?
SEO and ads together, the PPC and SEO together is 20%.
So you spent like 80 grand on this year?
Yeah, exactly.
Holy shit. Yeah. So you turn that off and there's 80K to your bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great, I mean, because look, Bruce, you could probably look at last year when you weren't paying for that and probably see that you had about the same sales.
Yeah, no, it's pretty similar. And then, then Thumbtack is about 20%. And then the referrals and repeat bring all of that down to 9,
Your total ends up at 9. Yeah.
Right.
Nice. By the way, that's why it's so important that you have an awesome customer experience and you get referrals and you get repeat, because it makes all your marketing more cost effective. If you're just at 20% cost of marketing on Thumbtack, Facebook, Google, and you didn't have the repeat, it would be like a terribly low margin business.
Well,
So
that has been a focus for the record too. Like a couple of years ago, our referral rate was like 13%, and now it's up to more like 28-ish.
yeah.
So,
and how are you measuring that?
just tracking.
I mean, like 28% of what? Like 1 out of 4 people actually do a referral, or is it your total amount of business, or how do you track it?
First one. So how many jobs have we done versus how many referrals do we get out of them?
Got it. Okay, cool. And so that was going to be my big question, given that that's the biggest number and the most influential for these other ones, is what do you do? What are you doing for referral and repeat?
Yeah. What's awesome about it is like just doing a good job, man.
Yeah.
I have tried referral programs and incentivizing it and offering, paid gifts and all that for it. And it really just comes down to making the customer experience as seamless as possible and actually giving a shit about the customer. And then as soon as we got away from it goes back to that fundamental principle. What is it? Care more about the customer than making the sale.
Yep.
And I was incentivizing getting the referrals like it's about us, but really it's about doing such a good job for them that they want to tell other people.
Yep.
Like we don't even ask for referrals. Like it's not part of the script at all. It just happens.
Yep. What are the and for the record, I think it's valuable to add in some kind of email newsletter,
Yeah.
texting customers a couple times a year, sending out a print newsletter, twice a year, 4 times a year.
Christmas cards is another one.
Yeah, I mean, just like it's do a great job and then be top of mind.
Yeah.
There might be something to a referral program, but that doesn't get you more referrals if you don't fix the customer experience.
Right.
So what are the, on that journey where you're like, that's been our focus for a couple years, how, like, what are the changes you've made? Like, how have you improved that?
Yeah, good question. So one is I made it really easy to book an estimate with us. There's someone to answer the phone at all times, and you can book an estimate through our website. There's just a lot of ways to get to us. And then once you get the estimate, making sure that experience is super clear and easy. In order to sign up with us, we use Paint Scout now. You just click accept quote, pay your deposit, we show up to do the job. Scheduling is a big one. Like this is such a small detail, but it goes a really long way, is whatever the salesperson talked about, that information has to make it to the production manager.
Yep.
That includes like, what's the name of the dog? What's the name of the baby? What do they do for a living? So then once the production manager shows up, they're not having the same conversation again. You walk in and you say, hey, hi to the dog that you already know the name of, and then you're off to the races. Yeah. And then just kind of making that so it's like they don't have to repeat themselves. And then at the very end, they know you don't have to pay us until you're happy with the work. And once you are, then hopefully you want to refer us.
Yep.
Yeah. So just making the experience, as seamless and painless and fun as possible.
What are you using for tech to keep those notes organized, and then also for the marketing numbers you were just pulling up?
Yeah, I've tried a few different CRMs, and we actually end up going back to our original system over and over again, which is a combination of Google Sheets, Google Sheets, Google Docs, and then we do use Cork CRM for scheduling. Just love the scheduling interface there, and then Paint Scout as well. So
nice.
It's a simple stack, honestly.
Yeah, but
it keeps it all in one, or it's in actually 4 places, but it keeps it readily available.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
Great, man. Anything else relevant to talk about with marketing?
No, I mean, I said it before we started, but really marketing is kind of just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks,
I think at the stage you're at, it's you need to dedicate, I would put more occasions throughout the week that are just like sticky, I never mess with them, to master marketing.
No, I know.
I think you can get those ones down because referral and repeat is really solid and Google is really solid, but that's 1.4 million of the business. Mm-hmm. And those are hard to move up. Yep. They're like trailing, so it's just going to take more. I think Mason's episode, like we talked about before, his was a good example of, because I think it's sort of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks, but it's more like testing and optimizing things until they work. Yeah.
I mean, that's really what I mean. But Facebook is a huge opportunity that we're not tapped into. And it's a similar story where I've tried to outsource it and work with contractors, vendors to do it. And they're great vendors, but that cost of that vendor just negates the whole return. So, yeah, the content has to be organic. It has to come from a better place, and then the optimizing and learning part of it, like I don't want to outsource that anymore. So yeah, you just, again, that's the shortcut that doesn't work. Yep.
I mean, it can maybe work, but again, that's the like cross your fingers approach.
Yeah.
All right, awesome, man. Any other big like learning lessons? Any last things that you would just share to someone who's 5 years behind you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an overarching theme to my whole journey and this conversation, and that is, I think of the business like it's a person, and it tells me what it needs, and you have to be willing to do what it needs you to do. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to get to the next level. So, yeah, having to admit that a few times has been painful, but
Yep.
yeah, I just keep doing it. So.
Well, and yeah, I've seen that theme over and over with myself and my partners of you can't avoiding problems doesn't fix them. Like you got to go do what's needed, and usually that looks like work that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And but it's worth it. You will learn over time that like, no, I want to do that work because that is the way out.
Yeah. And then, so a lot of the excuses come from like, well, I just want to work on the things I want to work on. Like, okay, you have to kind of earn that right,
Yep.
by working on this thing, then you can work on this other thing, but this has to be dialed first.
Agreed.
So you just have to admit that.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, I'm excited for you. It's been a huge shift the last 2 years. So really happy that you're just enjoying the business now, that it's growing well. Like you're doing it on your terms now. So super excited for you with that. And congrats on the little one.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I'm excited to spend more time with him and grow the shit out of this business.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Awesome. Thanks, Bruce. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. I hope you found it valuable. We make these episodes in the show for you, truly. So your feedback is super valuable to us, whether it's, things you liked, things you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. Any feedback you can give us is going to be super helpful as we continue to evolve and improve the show over time. And if you want a copy of the Fast Growth Roadmap for Painting Contractors, which really simplifies the steps you take to building a business, we've got that resource for free for you. Just check the description or the bio where you're watching or listening to this episode, and you can just click and download that for free, and it should help give you a good roadmap for how to build and scale your business like the people that you're listening to on the show. So thanks for listening in. We'll see you soon.